You only need 10 minutes to create your comic. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And I would have thought the same until I tried it and it worked. The truth is, I've been struggling recently to start on my ever-increasing to-do list, and the more I don't do it, the more stressed I feel, but the more stressed I feel, the more I don't want to do it. And as a result, I've not drawn my comic in over a week now. The streak of producing 2 pages per week for the last few months has finally been broken. And to be honest, I was starting to wonder whether I should stop making the comic altogether or start a new one entirely. But then I started applying the 10-minute rule, and it's enabled me to not only start drawing again, but more importantly, start enjoying it again. So what's the 10-minute rule? Well, it takes its inspiration from the Zeigarnik. I'm just going to say Zeigarnik. Let's just move on. Well, it takes its inspiration from the Zeigarnik effect, which is a psychological phenomenon that suggests that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks more than completed ones. It was first documented by Lithuanian psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik. Zeigarnik sounds right. It was first documented by Lithuanian psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who noticed that waiters could remember really complex orders right up until the moment that the bills were paid. As soon as the task was completed, they couldn't remember whether the person ordered the fish and chips or the cheesecake. Now don't worry, we don't need to remember anything. Partly because that's not how we're going to use the 10-minute rule, but also because we've got planners to do the remembering for us, haven't we? If you don't know what I mean, check out this video on the screen somewhere. Instead, we just need to give ourselves 10 minutes to do the tasks that we need to do. It's important to point out here that this isn't like a trick or a hack. You don't need to say, okay, brain, we're going to do this for 10 minutes and then I'll feed you with Netflix for the rest of the day. Because your brain is smart at that and it will know that you're trying to trick it. And so instead of trying to trick your brain, be honest with it. Commit to doing 10 minutes of work, and then once those 10 minutes of work is done, stop. Do something else for the rest of the day. Watch Netflix, play video games, do whatever it is that you procrastinate with. Then on the next day, repeat this process. What you're doing is you're providing your brain with these tiny little victories that stack up over time. And this does 2 things at once. The first thing is that it actually provides you progress with your comic. 10 minutes is better than 0 minutes. In fact, if you only ever do 10 minutes, then you're doing 10 times as much as the person who does nothing. So it really does add up. And the second thing that you're doing is you're giving your brain the dopamine hits that these small little victories provide, which will make it want to push beyond those 10 minutes. Here's how it worked for me, and I guarantee it will work for you. On day 1, I worked for 10 minutes on my thumbnails for my comic, and then I played video games and I watched a movie with my wife. That's what I did for my day. I went back to the page the following day and I ended up finishing the initial thumbnails for that page. I spent 20 minutes on the second day because I just wanted to get it finished. And then on the third day, I spent 10 minutes and then I stopped because I had no energy. So I just chilled and played video games. But then by the 4th day, I spent 2 hours on my comic and I had a great time. The truth is that most of us would kill to have more time to spend on our comics, but we can't because we've got families and jobs and other responsibilities. Bloody family. But when you have low energy and low motivation to do anything, then those hours that were once precious feel overwhelming. It feels like there's too much to do and you have both too much time and not enough time to do it. It's a weird paradox. So here's what you do. Set a timer for 10 minutes and actively work on the thing that you're working on. The only goal is to be working on it. It doesn't matter if you finish it or not. Once the timer is up, assess how you feel. If you still feel low energy and you don't really feel that much different, then just do something else. Go and chill. If you feel like you just want to finish off what you were doing, then finish it. There's no right or wrong answers here. And you may find that you're spending no more than 10 minutes on your comic each day for the next week or 2 weeks or the next month. And that's okay. You're still doing a lot more on your comic compared to when you were feeling paralyzed or overwhelmed by it. The actual time we spend on our comic in terms of numbers doesn't really matter that much. It's about continuing your forward momentum towards your goal of completing your comic. Another thing that the 10-minute rule provides you with is perspective. For those of you who work out in a gym, and as you can see, I obviously do, you'll know how important rest is because it allows your muscles time to recover and get stronger before you hit them again. Well, if you're spending 10 minutes a day on your comic, then you're allowing your mind to rest in between those sessions so that when you come back to it, you'll have a better perspective of where the errors are or what the solutions are to your current problems. This is a really effective way of proofreading your work, whether that's the script or the art, and I do it all the time. Honestly, this is a really liberating exercise and it can unlock a lot of stuff for you. And if 10 minutes is too much for you, then do 5 minutes, do 2 minutes. The time is kind of arbitrary. What we care about is action. If you put a few meaningful lines down on your page, then that's a day well spent. If you wrote only a few lines of your script, then that's also a day well spent. We're almost always way too hard on ourselves and expect our output to be consistent and profound. But it doesn't have to be. Having those tiny victories is what will lead you to completing your comic, whether you spend 10 hours on it or 10 minutes. It may also help give you some mental clarity, as these little victories and the rest in between them can help clear some of that brain fog that you're experiencing. Maybe you feel that you can no longer come up with good ideas for your comic panels and you've been staring at a blank page for the last several days. And if that's you, then watch this video next where I show you how to create your comic on easy mode.